It's Friday, October 2nd. Let's talk PlayStation. You'll have to excuse me, but I'm freezing my ass off, so the hoodie is staying up this whole video. Drive Club PlayStation Plus Edition. So if you have not grabbed this thing already, you better go do it quick, because it's coming off the store October 6th. Just a little PSA reminder for all of you. Moving on, Uncharted, the Nathan Drake collection. Of course, it's coming out very, very soon. The reviews are out. Turns out it's pretty good, apparently. No shock there. But here, one interesting thing that Naughty Dog commented about was why it actually doesn't include the Golden Abyss. So basically, Naughty Dog's Arnie Meyer had this to say. It was definitely under consideration because we were trying to see how we could collect all the Uncharted games. But when we went back and we looked at what we were trying to do with the Nathan Drake collection, we realized that those three games, the trilogy, actually provided a particular narrative arc that led into Uncharted 4. We wanted to keep that as a holistic collection for that reason. And Golden Abyss kind of lives a little bit outside of that. And I can kind of see his point there. I mean, if you have played the Golden Abyss, that story is kind of like very much so what it is, which is a spin-off kind of away from the three main games, the three main story arcs. So certainly a good PR save there, but not only that, they must have been pretty happy with the decision, because not only did, is it sort of a good decision, but they don't have to invest the money in putting it into the current collection. And of course, they can possibly do it later and re-release it on PS4 or PS3 separately, and make some extra little monies there. But while talking about Uncharted, Naughty Dog's Josh Shear also commented about how early on in the development process of the original Uncharted, not only were they not happy with the final product of Uncharted Drake's Fortune, the first game, they shipped that game, they kind of did it a little bit quickly, kind of got it out of the door a little bit faster than usual, and they wanted to do more things with it. So not only were they unhappy with the release of the first Uncharted, like they wanted to do more with it, but they also talked about kind of, where they wanted to go with Uncharted and how Nathan Drake was possibly going to be. And originally, he was supposed to look a bit more cartoony, and he was actually modeled after Johnny Knoxville. So I found that really interesting. It's always cool to just hear some development background, things like that. And our last little Naughty Dog story is that Shuhei Yoshida commented on The Last of Us 2, basically saying that, what we've heard from Naughty Dog, which is that it's not in development. And said, about numerous amounts of quotes about how, he was having dinner with, I believe, Neil Druckmann or something, and how, Neil Druckmann and apparently, they're not doing Last of Us 2 right now. They have ideas, blah, 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 blah. I'm still not buying any of it, because it's, like I said, it's just one of those things where even if it's not in development, they are telling the truth. It's just one of those things where you can't take it for what it is, because obviously they're not going to confirm anything until they're ready to actually show you an announcement or something like that. They're not going to ruin a surprise, more or less. So I'm not buying it just now, but yeah, apparently it's not in development. So maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Alright, so this next one I really wanted to talk about. Sony's Shuhei Yoshida, of course, Sony Worldwide Studios president, talked a little bit about Until Dawn and its recent success and how it certainly took him by surprise. But he also mentioned about why it wasn't marketed as much as it certainly should have been. He said, we consider it a bit of a sleeper hit. It came out and it got super successful, and people love that game, and it's all over YouTube and things like that, which is absolutely the case. But he talked about why it isn't actually, why it didn't get a huge marketing push. And he basically commented as saying, people have asked me why it wasn't marketed as much as other titles. It's a decision made by marketing departments in each region because of the focus on this Christmas time frame to really support the big third-party titles like Destiny and these titles. They didn't see the need to push Until Dawn that much from the platform marketing standpoint. And I read this and I think to myself, like, and this is one of the few times where Sony's really commented about them, having a lack of marketing for their own exclusives and things like that. And I just think to myself, like, what is the matter with you guys? Like, why are you doing this? This is an exclusive title that you have funded. Like, this is one of those games where it's like, it's only on your platform. This is the kind of title that's supposed to tell people to buy your product over the other guys. This is a big game for you. It's of course a multi-million-dollar game, which we don't get many of these nowadays. It's an original idea. It's cool. It's funky. It's got that niche appeal. It's like, and even if it, even if you don't have huge confidence in it, like push it. Like Sony has tons of exclusives, and they do this all the time where they don't market it. And I'm thinking to myself, like, why are you not marketing the hell out of this thing? But see, you look at Yoshida's quote, and you also have to agree with it in a sense where it's like, third parties. Absolutely, that is the case. They have to do huge marketing pushes with third parties because, and this is even more especially true when you're you're the market share leader currently. When you have the biggest slice of the pie, you make most of your money from game software. You want to please third-party publishers. You want to sell the most games. You want to have the best version of a third-party game on your platform, so therefore you're selling even more copies of it, convincing more people to buy the hardware. That includes more sales of the game. It's a win-win situation for the publisher and, you know, the hardware manufacturer. So yeah, it's understandable that they have these big third-party pushes, but it's like, dude, you can't just leave your first-party games just sitting there in the dust. Well, of course, Until Dawn is second-party, but still, it's an exclusive game. You gotta... Sony, why? Why do you do this? And for our next news story, this is another one I really wanted to discuss, because you don't see this often. So, GameStop CEO Paul Raines recently stepped forward to talk about disc-based games, and he basically was quoted as saying, like, they're going to be around forever. Disc-based games are going to be around forever, despite the decline in physical games, despite the decline in movies and things like that. Physical media is basically always going to have a place in the industry. Now, of course, this is coming from GameStop CEO, somebody who, you know, runs an entire retail business that sells physical games to people. So yeah, there's bias there, but even still, it's nice to see somebody of a notable big sort of figure to step forward and kind of talk about this a little bit, and basically have the balls to say that, yeah, physical media is staying, like, it's not going anywhere, even if it is declining. And another thing is, and we just talked about him last week, Wedbush Morgan's Michael Pachter stepped forward and also commented about this, and gave a couple of good numbers too, which I want to talk about. He made a couple of interesting quotes, like, music CD sales are down 80% from their peak, but the salient point is that 18 years after Napster, Kazaa and Grokster, I don't know if you've ever heard of those, almost destroyed physical media, the record labels are still making CDs. DVD sales are down around 50% from the peak, but again, the figure is misleading, as the peak reflected the debut of virtually every film ever made on DVD. The masses bought Blu-ray players and bought catalog titles in 2010, and catalog has faded far more rapidly than new released DVD sales. Again, the salient point is that the movie studios are still making DVDs. I think the console death will take decades. That means that GameStop has at least another 20 years to sell DVDs. I think that the decline in physical game sales hurts GameStop the least, as Amazon and Best Buy customers are far more inclined to buy online than GameStop customers, due to the latter's predominant position in the used games business. Now, of course, you got Michael Pachter and you got the GameStop CEO Paul Raines. So certainly these are two people that are very easily discriminated against and easily hated on, and easily, you know, whatever comments they'll make, you know, anybody that even has no brain is gonna, you know, look at them and just call them idiots and not believe them. Here's the thing, you know, I've had how many rants about this already. You know, physical media absolutely still has a place, but it's nice to finally hear somebody kind of come out and just say straight up, like, yeah, they aren't going away anytime soon. And that's the damn reality of it. No matter how far, you know, the percentage there, in terms of physical media drops, I mean, it's always going to have a place. They still make vinyls, for crying out loud. CDs still get sold. DVDs still get sold, even though they're the small margin at this point. Hell, look at PC as a platform. PC is a gaming platform, of course. That's the kind of situation where it's all digital, and yet still multi-million-dollar games like GTA 5 or something like that will still get a physical release. I mean, and that's the thing, is you do look at the shift here. You do look at consoles. There's tons of digital-only games nowadays. That has totally gone up. Absolutely, that is truthful. But when you're talking, you know, big releases, that, yeah, absolutely, there's still going to be disc-based released games. I am flubbing all over my words, but you see my point. It's absolutely still going to hold a place in the next, you know, who knows how long. That's the thing. It's so difficult to kind of predict long term when you're talking 10 plus years in terms of technology. It's anyone's guess is good. But I think, like, a really safe guess is, like, that, yeah, physical media is still going to be around for a decent amount of time. So now moving on to our little controversial topic, which is PlayStation Vita 2 or Sony's future in the handheld market and things like that. Sony basically commented on this. Sony's Shuhei Yoshida at EGX 2015 was basically asked this, about Sony's future and PS Vita 2, will there be one, and things like that. So basically Shuhei gave a not so great answer, which was, that's a tough question. People have mobile phones and it's so easy to play games on smartphones, and many games on smartphones are free or free to start. I myself am a huge fan of PlayStation Vita, and we worked really hard on designing every aspect. Touch-based games are fun. There are many games with really good design, but having sticks and buttons makes things totally different. So I hope, like many of you, that this culture of playing portable games continues, but the climate is not healthy for now because of the huge dominance of mobile gaming. So this is, I read that and I pretty much see that as Sony kind of throwing in the towel. Not necessarily with Vita, because let's face it, even though they have in the past few years have been very open about the fact that, it's Vita's less at trade shows, and they've already confirmed that none of Sony's developers are working on any, high development Vita games and things like that. Absolutely, Sony has scaled down on Vita, but and this is what I always say is, like, Sony still manufactures Vita. They still let people make games for Vita. There's, just recently doing new colors for Vita and things like that. Clearly, they're still supporting the little platform in the lowest common denominator, but they're throwing in the towel of, like, the future, basically. This is Sony basically kind of saying, like, we're probably not going to do another one. At least not now if it keeps up like this, which, let's face it, it's probably going to keep up like this. So you got that little thing that happened. And I wanted to bring up this one, this one Kotaku article that was written by Jason Schreier. I hope I'm saying his last name right. Basically, an article, mobile gaming didn't kill the Vita, Sony did. And it's a really interesting article because it kind of calls out Sony on a number of things. Like, Sony decided to gouge customers by forcing them to use proprietary expensive memory cards. Sony marketed the Vita with console-quality games, but then did shoddy spin-offs like Uncharted, Call of Duty, and Resistance Burning Skies. And I take issue with Uncharted. Uncharted was actually very good. How Sony's marketing kind of turned the Vita into a $250 PS4 accessory. How Vita turned into a great system for PS1 and PSP games, but the fact that Sony didn't actually support that all that well, and you still need a lot of silly shortcuts to get certain games to work. Mentioning how PS2 Classics could have been a great port to Vita, but Sony never did that. BioShock Vita, which of course never happened. Sony pretending that Vita basically doesn't exist at major trade shows, and Sony publicly admitting that they are no longer making major Vita games. And then points to the 3DS, which, we remember that launched back in 2011, launched at $250, had a very tough start. But Nintendo kind of doubled down, lowered the price, redesigned the system, did their Nintendo magic, which was released great games for the system, and now it's doing very well, and it's sitting at a very healthy, respectable 50 million units plus sold worldwide. And it's a great article. It's absolutely truthful on a number of things, which is, yeah, Sony messed up the Vita a lot. Like, there was a lot of things that Sony did wrong with Vita. And if you've been watching this channel for like 2 years now, you've heard me say this like every single time whenever we talk about Vita and where it is in the industry and what I think it's going to be in the future and things like that. I've always said it's never going to be a huge success, and I've always said the market has basically said that they don't want Vita, and I've said that Sony has more or less done what they can with the system. I'll always acknowledge that I'll always acknowledge exactly what's in that article. Like, they messed up all those things, but they also released like most of the AAA console quality games on that system. They did an Uncharted on it, they did a Little Big Planet, they did a Killzone, they did Tearaway, Gravity Rush, and these aren't bad games. Like, these are good games that people enjoyed, that reviewed very well, and that people swear by. That is a great game that you have to get on Vita if you ever own a Vita. And the fact is, nobody was buying Vita despite those games being available. No one was buying those games despite owning a Vita. Sony probably lost money on all those games. So you can't necessarily, it's for lack of a better word, blame them for like kind of scaling it back, especially when the market's just not responding. Now, of course, like the article mentions, if Sony would have possibly fixed all those things, would it have helped or something like that? And that's the thing. I look at this article and I say, even if Sony did every single one of those things right, even if they really doubled down on Vita and did all those things correctly, I personally still can't picture Vita doing well. I just can't picture it. I can't picture Vita in any sort of situation where it is a huge success and it's, thriving with 50+ million systems or something like that, like the 3DS. I don't see it, no matter how well Sony would have done with Vita. It just is, and, I think it's a fair assessment to say that's just the reality of it. The market has responded and they just don't want Vita. You know, you might say, well, why did 3DS do so well? And 3DS, of course, I feel like I'm gonna get blasted for this, but it's, you know, it's just how I see it. It's just Nintendo's Nintendo. They have such a huge place in the portable game space. Every gamer that even remotely wants a portable probably has a 3DS. Also, a big portion of Nintendo's, you know, portable sales, we all know, goes to like children, younger audiences. That is absolutely the case. There's no disputing it. Especially when you've got the whole, you know, oh, 3DS, it's 3D. You know, like when 3DS like dropped in price and it started to have a huge spike in sales. That's when that, you know, system was starting to be put on store shelves and had little kiosks and everything. I mean, and kids were playing with those things and, you know, playing with the 3D slider. I mean, come on, let's face it. A bunch of 3DSs were sold. Going into that sort of lead up, and you got more, you know, platforms that, you know, that creates healthier environment for developers to make games for it, because obviously they're going to sell. And then you've got all that 3DS shovelware, and it's just the typical Nintendo syndrome of how well they do. But that's the thing, is that 50 million's great, but look at the DS, which sold, you know, I believe 150 million, a little under 150 million systems. And 3DS is not going to get even close to that. So, even Nintendo kind of took that little hit from where the market is saying that we just don't play traditional portable game systems anymore. So, you know, when you've got Sony in such a beat-up position, you can't really blame them for saying, you know, we can't make big games anymore. We can't, we're probably not going to do another handheld anytime soon or something like that. And I hate saying, like, you can't blame them, because it sounds like I'm defending them. I just kind of see their point, basically, because, like, yeah, there's tons of things that Sony basically fucked up on Vita. And I would have loved to see them fix all those things. I would have loved to see them, you know, support it longer and release more games for it. I believed in the Vita dream. I just kind of, like, from the very beginning, I was like, this probably isn't going to do all that well. And it sucks that that's kind of the reality of it. Alright, those are some of the news stories I want to talk about with you guys this week. So, of course, the one big news story that we're kind of missing here is that PS4 firmware 3.0 is now out. It was announced for a certain date, and then it came out in the same week of last week, so it's out now. Go download it. A couple of big features there, you know, 10 gigabytes of, you know, online storage, a PlayStation Plus section on the very end of the dynamic menu now for you to get easier access there. The whole grouping your friends together thing, which is actually just glorified, like, group messaging. But the big thing is communities, which is actually my favorite part of it. So, of course, people have been asking me on Twitter. Yes, there is a community, PlayStation 4 community for this channel. The crappy thing is that you can't search for communities, so the best way is basically to search my PSN ID. My PSN ID is Mystic Moon, MYSTICMOON. Go down to my communities and check it out. There's the Let's Talk PlayStation community. That's basically the channel community. I'll be posting in there all the time now. I actually think it's really awesome. We got, like, I believe 80 or so members on it right now, just from me posting it on Twitter, but hopefully more of you guys will join. Definitely go and, like, join this thing. Like, I will totally be in there talking with you guys. Let's break 100 people in the community. Let's get that thing going. I guess a couple of people in other territories, like if you're not in North America or something, are having a hard time, like, finding communities or joining communities and things like that. Hopefully Sony will sort that out with a 3.01 or 3.01 firmware or something like that. But there is a community for the channel, so definitely join that thing, because it's really awesome. I love that feature so far. It's, like, so cool. So go do that. Anyway, the topic for On Gaming this past week was what was it? Buying consoles on day one, the pros and cons, you know, should you do it, should you not do it, things like that. Pretty good discussion. Also, Jack 2 parts, what is it? What did it go up? What went up this past week? 11? I don't want to have to go and look for it. I'm going to say it was 11. And that's pretty much it. That concludes this week's episode of Let's Talk PlayStation. I'm Ryan Benecki. Thank you all so much for talking with me, and I'll see you guys next Friday.